Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Bismillah. Alhamdulillah. Indeed, all praise is due to Allah. We seek His help and His forgiveness. We seek help from Allah from our own soul's evils and our wrongdoings. He whom Allah guides, no one can misguide. And he whom He misguides, no one can guide. All praise is due to Allah the Exalted. May He send peace and blessings on His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family and his companions. Now, I took a deep breath because I'm talking about an attribute that's very hard to actually implement. Because it takes a lot of hardship, it takes a lot of work and experience. And the title of today's session is Gift Yourself with Forgiveness. And it's truly gifting yourself. You're giving yourself the ultimate gift if you actually have this attribute. That you can forgive in times of hardship. That you can forgive when somebody wrongs you. And like anything in Islam, we reflect on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our creator. And amongst His attributes is His Al-Ghafur Ar-Rahim. Right? He is the most forgiving. He is the oft-forgiving. And even if you want to break down the word ghaffar, which means to conceal, to put a layer on it, to cover it, to hide it, to overlook someone's imperfections. And if you look at that, this is something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does for us all the time. We are imperfect people. We're an imperfect creation. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows what He created. And what happens is that we make sins and we fall short and commit these same sins over and over and over again. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's door of mercy is always open. Even if you do the same mistake and the same error, as long as you sincerely repent and you put the effort to seek forgiveness from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will forgive you. Allah is saying, just ask of me and I'll forgive you. So forgiveness is an attribute that not many people have. Forgiveness is an attribute only the strong have, not the weak. It's not amongst the attributes of the weak. When in reality, some of the people think it's the opposite. They think only the weak forgive people that wrong them. When in reality, it's completely opposite. It takes a lot of strength and determination and actually stepping on your pride to forgive someone who wronged you when you have absolute right to forgive them. If they didn't do anything wrong to you, by the way, you have no right to forgive. They didn't do anything to you to even seek your forgiveness to them. And some people think that you may have wronged them and you didn't. But only when you have a legitimate excuse to forgive and you forgive, these are the people that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about. So even those who claim to be religious, those who claim to implement this deen, this beautiful deen, this attribute of forgiveness is not in everybody. I know some people that they pray and they fast and they give charity and they do all the things that are good. But when it comes to forgiveness, when someone wrongs them, they have the harshest of hearts. They're so cold, they're so dry. And even if it's their own sibling sometimes, they will not forgive them. A whole lifetime will go and they will not forgive them. And then you kind of say to yourself, how can a person that's so righteous in their ibadah, in their prayer, and in their giving charity, and in all these aspects of deen that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made obligatory for us, and then they don't forgive? And then they don't forgive. It's so important, this attribute. Why? Because no matter how much we do good in this world, we need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us. We need Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to shower us with mercy. Not any one human being will enter His paradise without His mercy, without Him forgiving our sins. So looking at this attribute, you want to look at all the times that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ described this particular attribute. And he demonstrated it. And the first one that comes to mind is the story of Aisha. When the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ went through this whole aspect, and Aisha radiallahu anha went through this era of slander. And when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh found out who, obviously we know the people know this, a majority of you guys know the story, but it was originated by who? It was originated by hypocrites. But some of the believers actually fell short and believed this concept. They believed this concept and they started to spread it themselves. And amongst those people that was spreading it is the cousin of Aisha. The cousin of Aisha that actually Abu Bakr radiallahu anh used to help him financially even. I want you to actually take a minute and reflect on this situation and think as if it was you. If it was you. If you were a mother in the audience or a father in the audience, and then someone comes to slander your daughter or to slander your son and talks about something that's totally not true. And not only are they close to you, you've aided them with your own money, with your own time. You've helped them and you've made them prosper. Imagine that. The first thing we would react like, I can't believe they did this to me. We would take it as if they directly stabbed us in the back. And that's how Abu Bakr radiallahu anh first took it. He said, when he found out, I swear by Allah that I will not help him with 1 penny after this moment until I live. Until I live. And he was so angry with him. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ then revealed that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the man of grace and wealth among you should not swear against giving their charitable gifts to the kinsmen and the poor and those who have migrated in the way of Allah. And they should forgive, pardon, overlook. And he ends this verse with a question and goes again back to the attribute, which he says, would you not love Allah to forgive you? Allah is the most forgiving, the most merciful. He's questioning him, but he also actually took what Abu Bakr radiallahu anh said, and he told him, you are from the pious men, the righteous men, the elevated men that I've given you knowledge and I've given you wealth. You should not swear. You should not swear to Allah that you will not give the poor and the needy and the kinsmen. And when Abu Bakr radiallahu anh then heard this verse, he said then again, I swear by Allah, I will continue to give him. I will continue to give him until the day I die. And not only did he continue to give him, you guys, he gave him an increase of what he usually gave him. I want you now to look at how many of us in the room have had that experience before. Like somebody talked about us, somebody slandered us, somebody backstabbed us, somebody took our trust and destroyed it. Somebody took something from us. And as we get older, you're going to experience these things because we deal with imperfect human beings. We make mistakes. Even if we were making those mistakes intentional or intentional, it does matter, but people will make mistakes. And sometimes the closest people will hurt you the most. And Allah's question to him was, what? Wouldn't you want Allah to forgive you? We sin day in and day out, every single day, with little things, minor things, things we're aware of, things we're not aware of. And every day, if we're sincere believers, we worry about the day that we're going to actually meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we hear different stories of how we will not even enter paradise without the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doesn't that bring you into worry? Doesn't that make you hesitate? Doesn't that make you feel like you need to do more and more and more, and no matter how much you do, you feel you're not yet there? Because we make mistakes all the time. And we still want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us. We still want Allah to give us the benefit of doubt. And yet, we make mistakes all the time, but who do we love the most? We love ourselves the most. We love ourselves so much, even though we make mistakes. Then why is it so easy for us to hate someone really quick when they just did 1 or 2 things to us? Why do we find it so hard for us to forgive them, to actually embrace them with a soft heart, and to forgive them for what they did, even though they did wrong to you? Now, before I go into more stories, before I finish with this story, is if anyone had the right to be angry, Abu Bakr had the right to be angry, radiallahu anh. He did. I mean, this is something we take actually very hard, like somebody talking about us or slandering us, let alone one of our children, and then yet be somebody that actually was being helped by me. You take it very hard. So he had full right to get mad at him. He had full right to swear that he wouldn't help him. He had full right to cut ties with him and say, I don't want to have nothing to do with you. Get out of my face. But he didn't, because Allah and His Messenger were closer to him than what he did. And his purpose in life was to please Allah, the Exalted, and to follow the footsteps of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and to ultimately attain the pleasure of Allah and enter paradise. And when he got that message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he took it. He took it and he implemented it. It's similar to how the companions are different than us. When they heard something, they implemented it. When we hear something, we still hesitate. We think, oh, there's time for it. We don't need to forgive. Well, we pray and we fast and we do all these things. Oh, God will just cover up all these imperfections under the rug and that's it. But you cannot get the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without being merciful to the people. So it is human nature to have problems with people. We're not hiding in some cave, not dealing with people. We deal with people at home. We deal with people at work. We deal with people in our communities, in our mosques. And guess what? The more you actually deal with people, and people that know this by example will know, like if you volunteer in the community, or if you deal with people on a day-to-day basis, or if you're even a person who loves helping people and you keep working with the needy, and you'll see there's hardships in actually doing that. It's not easy. It's not so loving. Sometimes you have very hard experiences, and those people that you help, sometimes they themselves are the ones who hurt you. And then I know a lot of people that don't ever come around again after they get hurt. They don't come around again because they allowed people's imperfections to make a stamp on their life. And they pushed them away from acts of good because they couldn't take the heat of people. And that is true. People will make mistakes. You will make mistakes. I will make mistakes. The thing is, we're all human beings. And until we realize that we're all human beings and we're all imperfect, then guess what? Imperfection will come toward us, and yes, we will do that to others as well. So people will oppress you, and you will oppress people. You will hurt people, and they will hurt you. Now, when this happens, what does Islam tell us to do? What does the Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, tell us to do? What does the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam demonstrate throughout his whole life on how to react to these people? So when you even look at some stories, one of the stories that every time I hear it, I start to cry. And I'm hoping I don't cry right now. It's a story of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the story of Ta'if. What happened to him? And actually, when I was at UIC, I wanted to cry when I was talking about Khadija radiallahu anha, how much she was so important to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that incident actually happened right after the fact. That he lost his backbone uncle, the one who supported him and loved him, and no matter what, didn't let any of the people of Quraysh hurt him. And then he lost his beloved supporter, his wife, his friend, his companion, his soulmate. And then after all this, it was many years of boycott and hardship on the Muslims. Okay? He had people doing things left and right to him. His character, his position, his authority, everything was lowered. Imagine. Then when he went to Ta'if, he just wanted to go explore, and he went by himself, a messenger, by himself with one of his companions, one of his slaves, Zayd radiallahu anhu. And he went by himself just to go and see if he can get some support, because now he started thinking how I can get out of Mecca, even though he hated the idea of leaving Mecca. And the way they treated him, I don't want to go too in depth with the way the experience was, but the way they treated him was humiliating. You kind of had the chills when you heard the story, because you wished that you were there to even protect him, to shield him, peace be upon him. And he didn't argue with anyone, he didn't bother anybody, he didn't do anything, so on and so forth, all the way to the end, until one got the idea, let's make a message out of him. Let's make it clear not to come back. And they had their slaves and the kids and everything, a 3-mile radius, they say, standing and piling up rocks and waiting for him to show. And as he leaves this area, they wanted to hurt him. And with every step that he took, or every few steps that he took, they threw pebbles at him and rocks at him, to the point he was in blood. And did the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ take a rock and throw it back? No. Did he turn and start yelling at them and cursing them and doing all these things? No. And even Zayd radiallahu anhu was like in a frantic. He was amazed and in shock how people can be inhumane, which we see this now anyway. How people can be so unhuman and allow them to just keep throwing things at him until he's even bleeding so much that he can't even, every aspect of him was bleeding. And he started trying to be shield all around him until even a big, huge rock hit his head and he started having a major injury on his head and he started bleeding. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ told him, just go away, just stay away from me. You're going to get killed like this. And then they stopped when they felt they were done or bored with it. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, even before sitting, made a beautiful dua. And even then, when the angel of the mountains came to him and said, just instruct me, I will destroy them all. Instruct me, just instruct me and I will destroy them all. Let me do what you wish. And what did the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ say? He said, no, leave them, don't destroy them. And he was praying to God not to destroy them. And he said, maybe one of them, maybe their children will be amongst the people that believe in La ilaha illallah. And he's still bleeding. His scars are still there. We have people nowadays that if you just look at them the wrong way, they hate you for life. They look at you the wrong way, and you're not even looking at them. You're probably dazed at something else, and they hate you for life. They have this negative impression of you forever. Or if you just said something, they never forget it. They never forget it. Now imagine this is the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when his wounds are still there. He's still bleeding. The blood did not even dry. And this was his reaction when somebody hurt him or when people hurt him. Now imagine one thing. Imagine if the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, destroy them all. They would be destroyed, right? Would he be doing something wrong? He was asked, do you want us to destroy them? And if he said yes, he would have. But guess what? All of Ta'if became Muslim after that. Not after that particular situation, but when Islam came into growing, they were amongst the people who embraced, and all of them became Muslim. Now imagine if he just destroyed them on the kufr they were in. How many people will be thrown in the hellfire because of it? But because he was merciful, and because he was patient, and because he was gentle, he allowed time to pass. And he allowed Allah to choose if he wanted to punish them or if he wanted to guide them. You know, with this story just was reminded to me that a friend once told me her story. And she told me that, you know, I had a hard time forgiving. I had a hard time forgiving my uncle. And I started asking her, well, what happened? You know, why did you have a hard time forgiving my uncle? She said, well, to be honest, we all came from the bled and we were all working this business. And my dad was the oldest of his brothers, and he took care of all his brothers, and he helped them and he guided them and he got them married and everything. So he did everything what an older brother was meant to do even, and more, because he could have turned his back. And then she's like, even we had a business that was well and good business that even my spouse and my sister's spouse were working in it, and everything was working fine until his youngest brother got greedy. Until his youngest brother got real greedy and he started telling his brother, either buy or sell, or buy or sell, or buy or sell. And who was the originator? Who was the originator even of it? Was the brother, the older one. So to the point where he's like trying to get him to buy or sell, but he really wanted him to do is sell his portion and give it to him. So one day he seen he wasn't budging. He brought a gun. And he brought it in front of his brother. And he told him, what do you want to do? So the brother said, take it. I'll sell it to you. He was so hurt, so mad. But he did something of dignity. He told him, just take it. I don't care how much money it makes. If you're going to do this to me, I don't want it. So guess what? He got greedy and greedy and greedy. And guess what? After he did that, that business did not do the same blessed business that it was. It started falling short. And I'm saying this story because this uncle of his started getting more religious after he faced some hardships. The younger one started getting more into deen and getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then when he did that, he wanted to intend to go to Hajj. And when he was about to go to Hajj, he calls his brother. Because before we do things like this, before we go to Hajj, we're supposed to seek forgiveness from those who we've wronged. And he went to his brother, and he visited his brother, and he asked him, will you forgive me before I go? And his brother forgave him. And his daughter told him, Dad, how could you forgive him? He did this to you after all that. He goes to her, I'm nobody. I'll forgive him. Allah is the one who will forgive. I forgive him from my aspect. Allah is the one who forgives. And she's like, I looked at my dad in such awe that he can forgive that. And I, being the daughter, didn't forgive it yet. But he was so merciful that he forgave him. Now, the reason I'm sharing this is because it's Allah's choice to forgive and to guide the misguided or to keep someone misguided. Now, he could have misguided this man, right? How would he have misguided him? He could have increased him in his business. He could have made it more fruitful and more flavorsome. It could have been more and more and more until he reached a level where he's like, oh, I'm straight. Thank God I took it from my brother. And he would have made him forget that he even did wrong. He would have closed his heart to even think of asking his brother for forgiveness. But then he made the business go sour. And when the business went sour, what happened? The man started to reduce his pride and become more humble. And then he started to get more religious, coming closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he ultimately went to Hajj and improved himself. But if Allah willed, he wouldn't have guided him. So when someone wrongs us, by the way, you forgive for you. You forgive for you, and you forgive them to pardon them, to free yourself from this bad bitterness in your heart. And it doesn't mean that when you forgive them, that what they did goes forgotten. But you forgive them for you. So we're going to talk about one thing, one ayah that will involve, kind of put all of this in one bracket. And when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us race with one another for Allah's forgiveness and entering Jannah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, the believers are those who spend in charity during ease and hardship and who restrain their anger and pardon the people, for Allah loves the doers of good. So when you have the right to get angry, you forgive. It's only when you have the legitimate reason that you have to forgive, you forgive. Somebody wronged you and it's a fact and it was proven. That's when you have the power to forgive. And in the ayah, it talks about those who forgive and pardon all mankind. He didn't say your family. He didn't say your friends. He didn't say your loved ones. He said all mankind. That means Muslim or not. That means family or not. That means people you like and people you dislike. Nowadays, when we like someone, everything, we actually are blind to their flaws. If they have imperfections, we don't see them because we love them so much. And even if we know deep down inside that we know they're wrong, we still kind of tap them on the back saying, good job. You're fine. It's okay. Maybe they're just overdoing it. We cover the faults of people we love. And if it's someone we dislike, Forget covering our eyes. We bring a telescope. And we see the smallest minor things, the flaws in them, and we want to wipe them out. We want to make them visible to everyone. And then, who hurts us the most, though, is the people we love. It's only those who love us that can really hurt us the most. I'll tell you why. A person you don't care about, who cares what they say? Who cares what they do? Whatever it is, you tell them, Ruhu, I'm going home. Adi. Whatever you're going to do between you and Rabbik, I don't care. You feel like it's not a part of you anyway. So if they have something against you or they do something wrong to you, you don't care. You just hope for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you the strength to bear whatever it is that they put forth. But who hurts you the most is the one you love. So imagine a husband and a wife. Imagine the husband betrays the wife, or the wife betrays the husband, or she lies to him, or he steals from her, or he does something, he disrespects her in front of the people. Wouldn't that hurt? It hurts and it scars. It scars the heart. And even when you go back to normal, you still think of what they said and you remember it. So you have to forgive them in order to move on. It is truly hard to forgive. When your best friend that you live with and you work with and you grow up with, and they hurt you, they stab you in the back, they talk about you, that hurts you the most. It really does. And I'm saying this from experience because I had a lot of different scenarios like this in my life. And you grow from them. And in these scenarios, you either grow from them or get worse. And the way you grow from them is by turning to Allah and you actually forgive them. I'll tell you a scenario in my life. It was really hard for me. Actually, I had someone try to take apart me and a friend. And they said certain things about me that I didn't like. And it was between me and this friend, and I felt like I couldn't talk to anyone else because it was between me and this friend. And I had no one else to turn to but Allah, which was the best. And I felt so disrespected. And it was a slander, similar to Aisha radiallahu anha. And I didn't know what to do. And I couldn't talk to my friend because I used my friend. I used to be like, I wanted her to vent to me. I didn't want to go and vent to her too because it was dealing with her family. So when I went to another friend and I told her something tad bit of the story, and I told her, how can I get this hurt out of me because it's hurting me? She goes to me, well, I don't know your situation, Lena, but usually the best way to cure your heart is to go make dua for them. I go to her, what? You're crazy. You want me to go make dua for a woman that said something bad about me? And she looked at me like, I know it's kind of hard, but yeah. And I go to her, Habibti, I don't think so. So then I go home, and what she said to me really penetrated my heart. And I go to home, and I'm thinking, and I lose sleep about it. It took me 2 weeks to reflect on what she said. Then I remember where I was, actually. I was at Mosque Foundation in the front hall by one of the pillars. And I took a deep breath. And I nawait 2 rak'ahs. And she said, the best place to make dua for them is where? In your sajda. I was like, oh God, I'm going to waste my sajda for this person. And it took me 2 weeks, really. And I'm telling you this because it did. I was so choked up. Did you guys ever feel like that cry that's stuck right here? I felt so like nervous and heavy. I go, you know what? I'm just going to do it. Adi. So I went and I prayed. And I'm telling you, it was one of the hardest things I ever did. And then guess what? When I lifted my head from that sajda, I really felt a concrete block came right off my heart. I felt it instantly. The second I lifted my head, I felt I was at peace. And that's what I want. for everybody. It's truly hard to forgive people. We learn from many different stories of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. We heard stories of how he was disrespected and yelled at and hit. And there was even a woman that every single day would see the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ would throw things at him and put dirt and things in his path, disgusting things in his path. And he had to pass her. I mean, he couldn't avoid her. He had to pass her house to go to the masjid. And every single day she did it. And every single day the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ just passed through it. Until one day, she didn't throw it. You think the Prophet was like, good riddance, God. Thank God he took her away from me. No, actually he didn't. He actually stopped. And he went to her house. And he sought permission to enter. And when she gave him permission to enter, she was shocked that he was even there. And to be honest, she wasn't thinking he was going to ask for forgiveness. He was going to forgive her. She thought he was going to take advantage of her weak state and take vengeance. And when she asked him, what are you even doing here? He goes to her, I'm only here to check on you. Because you didn't do that, I wondered where you were. And because I heard you were sick, I came to visit you. Wow. Isn't that amazing? Now, when we say we love the Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, do we do any of that? We have people in our ummah that will pray hardcore, will look Muslim hardcore, will wear the hijab hardcore, will read and ihfad al-Quran hardcore. But when it comes to forgiving their brother or sister, they don't. And this is a challenge for who? Al-mu'min. This is a challenge when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, race for my forgiveness, race for my Jannah. And He's describing the people that are racing for Jannah are the ones who actually forgive and pardon the people. And I know I'm not telling you this by just because no one ever hurt me. I'm telling you this because I felt it before. And I know the gift of really gifting yourself forgiveness. That you forgive them and you pardon them and you overlook that. And I'm telling you in essence that when you forgive and you soften your heart to look at those things, you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will take this example in your life and forgive you. You never know if this is the true concept that will take you to heaven. Maybe this is the one thing that you do on a consistent basis that will take you to heaven. And if it's worth that, then do it. Even when you look at people you dislike, believe me, if they pass away, you wouldn't want to have more like hardship on them. I don't know about you, but me, even people I dislike, I don't want harm to them. I just want them to leave me alone, really. I don't care about them, to hurt them, to talk about them, to bash them. Because look in Islamic law, eye for an eye is permissible, right? If someone gossips me, I can gossip them to what? The same amount. If someone killed someone I love, I can go retaliate that kill. Yes, I can. That is Islamic law. But is it recommended? Does the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ recommend that? An eye for an eye? Does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala encourage it? No. He gave us the free will to do that because He knows that every single one of us is different. Every single one of us has different levels of faith. Every single one of us, some of us are soft and gentle and some are harsh and cold. And He gave us that right. That if someone wrongs us, we can wrong them at the same level. At the same level. Now, what makes you think when somebody gossips you, you go gossip them, is going to be the same level? You know you have to be very precise there. To the number of people you said it to the caliber of the hurt that it affected the person, everything. So who are you and how are you ever going to say, I did the same amount of evil to this person? It's impossible. And what is encouraged by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to forgive. is to forgive and pardon them and to let it go and to cover it up and act like they are your brother and sister in Islam and love them for the sake of Allah, and at the very least, not hurt them with your tongue or your hand. And cleanse your heart from this harsh bitterness feeling. You're only doing it for yourself. You're really only doing it for yourself when you forgive. Now, there's 4 things that I want to talk about how do you actually go about forgiving. And one of the things is there's a halal way, a haram way. Hold on. Halal way, a haram way, and you have a halal way, a haram way, a permissible way, a good way, and an encouraged, something that's encouraged. Now, 4 ways to respond to someone who hurts you. One is the haram way. The haram way is you hold a grudge. You actually hold the grudge and you return the evil and you do more evil than was done to you. Because you know when somebody gossips you won't say the same thing. You'll say that plus 10. Because they already got on your nerve. You want to hurt them just as much, if not more, because they hurt you. So the haram way is to retaliate and hold that bitterness in your heart and to hold the grudge and to do more harm than was done to you. And this is where you have to be careful, okay? Because that's when you go from the oppressed to the oppressor. And that's where you have to be very careful. The permissible is not encouraged. So the halal is to face it to the person. Open it up to the person and go back and do what you said, doing the fair amount. That's permissible, taking your right. But Al-Hasan al-Basri commented on this verse and he said, how do you know if you did the exact amount? And how do you know that you went from the wronged to the wronger? How do you know that you didn't go from the oppressed to the oppressor? So be careful with the permissible aspect. It is not encouraged, so try your best to go to the ultimate ihsan. The third one is good. It's to forgive and to move on. And this is the third bracket. This is something that if you can get yourself to do, you're automatically doing great. That you can just forgive and move on. Don't let their what they said or what they did pull you down or drag you down. You want them to be not a part of your life. That they hurt you and they kill your confidence and they drag you down with their words or with their actions. You don't allow it. You don't allow them to hurt you. You forgive them, you let it go, and you move forward. You move forward. But don't go back to, acting like some people, they forgive and they don't go back to friendship status, right? Like, I've had that before. Like, somebody wronged me before, and I didn't talk to them ever again. I didn't hurt them. I didn't want to do anything to them. I just didn't talk to them again. Why? Because I knew if I did, they would probably hurt me again and again and again. And there's no ties between us. Right? There's no ties between us. There's no family ties or anything for me to do anything. Other than my right to them and their right to me, giving salam and not hurting them with my hand or my tongue, then that's all I could do. And that's the good status. But if you want ihsan status, and by the way, this is a challenge for everybody. Even in times where you feel like you forgive, sometimes there's times you don't forgive. There's times it depends on our mood and our surroundings. Sometimes if you have a bad friend next to you that you just argued with someone, instead of them calming you down, they irk you more, then God help. The rage is going to go. The fire is going to go. The gas has just went. It just put the big flame. Why? Because your friends or your people around you should either calm you down. If they're good, righteous people around you, they should calm you down and give excuses to your brother or your sister and allow you to calm down, to see the light, to forgive them even if they wronged you. But a person that is not God-fearing will add to the fire. And then you will just feel the burn. You will feel like you have to yell or retaliate because that's just human nature. Now, the level of ihsan, which is the highest level, is to forgive and forget and to mend the relationship before it was destroyed. So say, for example, this happens a lot with families. that if somebody wronged you, not only do you forgive them, not only do you just utter the words of forgiving, not only do you forget what they did, you try to put it back so far that you don't even remember it. You go back to the normal relationship that you had, that you talk to each other and you greet each other and you go to each other's homes and you gift each other. All this relationship goes back to normal. Imagine. That's the level of ihsan. And that's not an easy level to get to. And that's when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling on to the righteous. He's saying, you will deserve my Jannah. You will deserve my Jannah if that's how merciful and forgiving you are and you pardon the people. And Allah exceeds everyone and everything. That if you're known as this forgiving creature, you think Allah will not forgive you? He will be more forgiving towards you. So the roles have changed from the one who is wrong to the one who is doing wrong. So you got to be careful with that. The last 2 points I want to talk about, and I'll end with this, is how or why does one forgive? There's 2 simple points, one being Islamic, one not. The more you and I hold a grudge, when we are wrong, the longer our heart will burn and ache. It will actually hurt. We will feel the heaviness of that heart. We will feel that it's bitter, that it has a sour taste to it. So if you let go, it will free you. You'll be like a free slave. At the same time, the longer you are letting the other person, the longer you hate this person, the longer you dwell on what they did, the longer you allow them to control you, to control your actions, to control your behavior, to control your words. You are holding yourself hostage by them because you allow them to stop you. And the last point is, when you give up that anger, Allah will give you much, much more. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, pardon the people, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you, I will reward those good doers. He's not even saying that I'll give you 10 rewards or 100 rewards or 700 rewards. He's saying, leave it to me. I will give you everything you want. He's saying, give it to me. Wouldn't you want Allah to forgive you? Wouldn't you want Him with His knowledge and His generosity and His mercy to give you that number, to give you that credit? It is only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you should aim to do. Now, the last thing I want to do, keep saying last, right? But anyway, I want you to look at this flower. And this is one of the most beautiful creations that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did. And with this creation, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put a scent to it. And when the flower is bloomed, it is beautiful, it smells great. Now, what is important here is that we understand that with this beautiful creation, we want to be similar to it. Now, how are we going to be similar to this flower? When Imam Ali alayhi salam said, be like the flower that gives the fragrance even to the hand that crushes it. So look how beautiful this flower is, and it smells great. Now, even if I crush it and I bash it and I sprinkle it and go and crush it completely, what stays on my hand? The smell of the flower. Wasn't that a wise quote from him? Now, this is how you and I should be with each other. That when someone wrongs us, we try to step on our pride. We try to step on our pride and forgive. And I hope that this talk allowed you to really think about someone that you actually have a hardship with or that has wronged you, and that you're thinking of going to them and telling them, I forgive you. I forgive you, not for you. I forgive you for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I forgive you to free myself from you. So I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us amongst those who are from the people of ihsan, and that we reach a level that we do anything that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, even though it means hurting ourselves or, stepping on our own pride. Oh, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala open our hearts to love everything that will bring us closer to His love. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us amongst those who forgive those who wrong us. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in.